Queen Valiera stood in the command center of her last remaining warship. Through the massive window she could see her home world burning. Orange and red flames covered the surface where beautiful crystal cities once stood. The smoke was so thick that she could barely see the oceans anymore. Her people had built those cities over 3,000 years. Now they were gone, destroyed in just 4 months. General Thex walked up beside her. His armor was covered in scars and burns from the many battles he had fought. His face showed the same exhaustion that Valeria felt in her bones. He carried a data pad in his hand, but she already knew what it would say. More losses, more death, more failure. The numbers, General Vali said quietly. 80% of our fleet is destroyed, Tech said. His voice was flat, empty of emotion. We lost contact with the colonies in the 7th sector. The enemy has consumed everything there. Our home world will fall within 2 days. Maybe less. Valiera closed her eyes. The Droth Empire had been strong once. They had explored 50 star systems. They had built wonders that made other species jealous. They had armies, science, art, and music. They had everything that made a civilization great, and now it was ending, consumed by an enemy that could not be reasoned with or stopped. The swarm had appeared without warning. At first, they thought it was just a natural phenomenon, some kind of space creature that would pass through their territory and leave. But the swarm was not natural. It was hungry. It ate everything. Planets, ships, space stations, people. It consumed all biological matter and used it to grow larger, to create more of itself. The swarm did not want territory or resources. It just wanted to eat and spread. Nothing could satisfy it. The Droth military had tried everything. They used their most powerful weapons. They destroyed entire planets to stop the swarm from taking them. They called their greatest scientists to find a weakness. Nothing worked. The swarm adapted to every weapon. It learned from every battle, and it never stopped coming. What about the other species? Vali asked. Vex shook his head. The Kelvin Confederacy said they cannot spare ships. The Fatani Collective is evacuating their border worlds. The merchant guilds of Sephron closed their jump gates to us. Every major power in this region is running away. They will not help us. Valeria felt anger rise in her chest. She had sent messages to every species within reach. She had begged for help. She had offered technology, resources, territory, anything they wanted. The response had been the same everywhere. No, they were afraid. They thought that if they helped the DL, the swarm would come for them next. So they chose to hide and hope the swarm would be satisfied before reaching their worlds. They think they are safe, Valeria said bitterly. They think the swarm will stop after it consumes us. They are fools. The swarm does not stop. It will reach them eventually. Yes, Thex agreed, but by then we will be dead, and they will face the swarm without learning from our mistakes. Vali walked to the tactical display in the center of the room. It showed what remained of her empire. Red markers indicated worlds that the swarm had consumed. Yellow markers showed worlds under attack. Green markers showed the last few colonies that were still safe, but those were changing too. Yellow. Even as she watched, her science officer was updating the display in real time, and the news was never good. 4 billion Droth remained alive. That was all out of a population that had once Been 40 billion, only 1 in 10. Survived, most of them were crowded onto evacuation ships running from one temporary safe zone to another. They had no food production, no manufacturing, no stable homes. They were refugees in their own territory waiting to die. Your Majesty, her tactical officer called out. His name was Prill and he had served her family for 20 years. There is one more option. It is unlikely to succeed, but tell me, Valeria said, any option was better than giving up. There is a species on the galactic rim. They achieved faster than light travel about 50 years ago. Most advanced civilizations do not pay attention to them. They are considered primitive, young, not worth noticing. And you think they might help us? Valeria asked. If the great powers will not help, why would primitives? Prill hesitated. I do not know if they will help, but they are also the only ones who have not said no. We have not contacted them yet. Their territory is far from here. 3 weeks of travel. The swarm has not reached them, so they have no reason to run. Perhaps they will be curious. Perhaps they will want to prove themselves. Perhaps they are our last chance. Valeria finished. She looked at the humans. Thex said they call themselves humans. Vali had never heard of them, but she had nothing left to lose. Her empire was dying. Her people were doomed. If these humans said no, she would be no worse off than she was now. And if they said yes, there might be hope. Send the message, Valeria ordered. Tell them everything. Show them what the swarm has done. Ask them for help. Beg if you must. We have no pride left to protect. Prill began working immediately. Vali returned to the window and watched her world burn. She did not know if the humans would answer. She did not know if they could help, even if they wanted to. But she had made her choice. She would ask one more time. She would send one more message into the darkness, and Clear's throat. She would hope that someone somewhere still believed in helping strangers. Command Decan was drinking coffee when the message arrived. His patrol fleet was conducting surveys near the Kepler Expanse, a routine mission that he had done 100 times before. The work was boring but necessary. Earth needed to map the surrounding space, find resources, and watch for threats. Most days, nothing interesting happened. Today was different. Commander, his communications officer, called out, "We are receiving a transmission. It is coming from outside our known space. The signal is very strong, but the format is strange. It has passed through many translation systems." Day put down his coffee and walked to the communication station. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now, sir. It will take a few minutes." The message is using 17 different linguistic protocols. Whoever sent this wanted to make sure someone could understand it. Day felt his curiosity rising. Unknown messages from deep space were rare. Most of the time they were just natural phenomena that looked like signals, but 17 translation protocols meant someone intelligent had sent this, someone who wanted to be heard. "Got it," the communications officer said, playing. Now the screen flickered and a face appeared. Day had never seen anything like it. The creature was tall and elegant, with skin that glowed with soft blue light. It had multiple eyes arranged in a pattern across its face. Its mouth moved in a way that seemed wrong, but the translator turned the sounds into words Day could understand. "My name is Queen Vali of the Droth Empire. I am sending this message to Anyone who will listen, my people are dying. An enemy called the Swarm is consuming our worlds we have fought for 4 months, but we cannot win. Billions are dead, our fleet is destroyed. We have asked for help from every species. We know, but they all refuse. They are afraid. I understand their fear, but I must ask one more time, if there is anyone out there who will help us, please respond. We do not have much time. We need ships, weapons, anything you can spare. I am begging you, please help us. The message ended. Queen Valiera and LT Uncan GT face froze on the screen. Her glowing eyes filled with desperate hope. Day stared at the image for a long moment, then he turned to his communications officer. Send that to Luna Command immediately. Priority Alpha. Tell them I am returning to base to discuss this in person. His officer nodded and began transmitting. Day returned to his chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there an entire civilization was dying, and they had asked Earth for help. 3 days later, Day stood in a conference room at Luna Command, watching Admiral Han Yun review the message for the 5th time. The Admiral was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair that she kept very short. She had commanded Earth space forces for 10 years and had never lost a battle. She was also known for making decisions that other people thought were crazy. Play the data files, Hannah said. Tactical Officer Sok brought up the sensor records that Queen Vali had included with her message. The images showed planets being consumed by massive organic ships. The swarm vessels looked like tumors growing and spreading across space. They attached themselves to planets and drained everything, leaving dead rocks behind. The files also showed Droth warships fighting desperately and losing, their weapons barely scratched the swarm ships, which healed almost instantly. This is horrifying, Captain Narich Choi said. She commanded the Marine Corps detachment and had seen many battles, but even she looked disturbed. How do you fight something like that? You do not. So said grimly. Not with conventional weapons. The swarm adapts too quickly. Every weapon you use, it learns to counter. Every tactic you try, it figures out. The DTH had 3,000 years of military experience, and they still lost. How far away is their territory? Hana asked. 3 weeks at maximum slip speed, they answered. The Droth Empire was located in a region we have not explored yet. They are not our neighbors, but they are not impossibly far away either, and they have never contacted us before. Nari asked. No, De said. According to our intelligence, most advanced species do not pay attention to Earth. They think we are too young, too primitive. We have only had faster than light travel for 50 years. Most of them have had it for thousands of years. To them, we are children playing with toys, but now they need the children to save them, Hana said. Quietly, she turned off the display and looked around the table. Opinions. This is not our fight, Nari said immediately. Earth has limited resources. We have only built 3 major fleets. If we send them all to help the drought end fail, Earth will be defenseless. And for what? To help aliens who have never even acknowledged our existence. She is right, Siak agreed. The strategic risk is enormous. We do not know if we can defeat the swarm. We do not even know if our weapons will work against it. We could lose everything. Day had expected these arguments. They made logical sense. Earth had to protect itself first, but he also remembered Queen Vali and LT Unk and GT's face. The desperation in her eyes, he thought about what it meant to be human. Were they the kind of species that only helped when it was convenient? Or were they something more? Admiral Day said carefully, I understand the risks, but I think we have to consider what we gain if we do nothing. The swarm does not stop. Queen Valeria said so herself. If it finishes consuming the Droth, it will keep spreading. Eventually it will reach Earth. Would we not rather fight it now with allies than fight it alone later? Maybe Nari said, or maybe the other species will stop it before it reaches us. Why should Earth take the risk when everyone else is hiding? Because someone has to, they said, because if everyone hides, the swarm wins. Because he struggled to find the right words. Because this is what humans do. We help people, even when it is dangerous, even when it does not make sense. We do it because it is right. The room fell silent. Hana stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth floated. The darkness, beautiful and fragile. Luna Command was built on humanity's moon, looking down at the home world. Everything they had built, everything they were, came from that one small planet, and now someone was asking them to risk it all to save strangers. Prep the 3rd, 7th, and 9th fleets, Hana said. Suddenly we leave in 12 hours, Admiral. Nari started to protest. That is in order, Captain, Hana said firmly. She turned to face them. I know this is dangerous. I know we might fail, but Commander Day is right. This is what humans do. We do not hide when someone needs help. We do not calculate odds and decide that courage is too expensive. We act, and if we die trying to save the drought, then we die as humans should, fighting for something that matters. Day felt a smile cross his face. This was why he had joined the service, not to patrol empty space and map stars, to make a difference, to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. We will need to move fast, Seek said. Already pulling up logistics data. 3 weeks to reach Droth space. We should send a message ahead. Let them know we are coming. Do it, Hana ordered to Queen Valeira that Earth has heard her message. Tell her that help is on the way. Queen Valeira had given up hope 3 days ago. The message to the humans had been sent, but she expected no response. Why would they help? They did not know her people. They had no reason to risk their lives for strangers. She had prepared herself for the end. She had recorded final messages for her people, telling them to remember their culture and stay strong even in death. She had made peace with failure. Then the sensors went crazy. Your Majesty, Prill shouted from his station, we are detecting slip space ruptures, multiple signatures. Something is coming. Valeira's heart sank. The swarm had found them. She had hoped for a few more days, enough time to evacuate the last civilians, but it seemed that time had run out. She straightened her shoulders and prepared to give her final orders as Queen. How many swarm ships? She asked. That is the strange part, Pill said, confusion in his voice. The energy signatures are not swarm. They are not anything in our database. I have never seen this type of slip space drive before. Vali moved to his station and looked at the readings. Prill was right. The ships emerging from slip space were using technology she did not recognize. For a moment, wild hope flared in her chest. Could it be? Count 47 vessels. Prill reported. They are smaller than our dreadnoughts, but they are in perfect military formation. These are warships. Gown, the ships appeared on the main Screen Valiera stared at them. They were not beautiful like Droth vessels. They had no elegant curves or artistic design. They were angular, brutal, covered in armor plates and weapon mounts. They looked like weapons themselves, designed for only one purpose: to fight. We are receiving a transmission, the communications officer said. Put it through, Valor ordered. Human face appeared on the screen. The creature was small compared to Valeria, with dark hair and eyes that showed intelligence and determination. The translator converted her words into droll language. This is Admiral Hana Yun of the United Earth Space Forces. We received your distress call, Queen Vali. We are here to help. Venter Lime. We are here to help. Valeria felt her legs go weak. She gripped the edge of the console to steady herself. They came. The humans actually came. The primitives from the galactic rim had crossed hostile space to help a dying empire. She did not know whether to laugh or cry or fall to her knees in gratitude. Admiral Yun, Valeria said, her voice shaking slightly. I do not have words, thank you, but you must understand what you face. The swarm has destroyed everything. My military is broken. My worlds are consumed. Another voice came through, younger but equally determined. We understand, Your Majesty. This is Commander Day Kang of the UES Horizon. We reviewed all the data you sent us. We know this is dangerous. We know the odds are against us. We came anyway. General pushed forward to Valiera's side. His warrior instincts were taking over, pushing past shock to practical concerns. Human commander, what is your fleet strength? How many ships do you have? What weapons? There was a brief pause. Then Admiral Hana responded, and Valeria heard something in her voice that she would later learn was uniquely human. It was humor mixed with confidence, a strange combination in the face of death. We brought everything we have. General, 3 full fleets, 47 ships. Total, we have rail guns, plasma weapons, nuclear missiles, and kinetic kill vehicles. We also have some things the swarm has never seen before. Humans have a saying, General, if you are going through hell, keep going. Time to show the swarm what human hell looks like. Valiera watched her screens as the human fleet began deploying. Small fighter craft launched from carrier ships. Larger vessels moved into defensive positions. Transport ships appeared, loaded with soldiers and equipment. The humans were not just offering token support, they were committing everything. Your Majesty, a new voice said. Captain Nari Choi introduced herself as the commander of human ground forces. We are ready to coordinate with your military. My Marines can handle boarding actions and close combat. We will also share our technical data with your engineers. Maybe together we can find weaknesses in the swarm. Sending weapon specifications now. Another human said. Engineer Taeyeon transmit files that made Vali science officers gasp. The humans had weapons that seemed crude compared to Droth energy technology, but they were devastatingly effective. Missiles that could track targets through slip space, rail guns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, nuclear devices that released massive amounts of energy, and something called kinetic kill vehicles, which were simply large pieces of metal accelerated to near light speed. They are insane. The muttered but heard admiration. His voice, these weapons are brutal. No elegance, no sophistication. Just raw destructive power. Will they Work against the swarm, Valera asked. I do not know, Thex admitted, but they are. Different from anything we tried, maybe. Different is what we need, over the next hours. Humans and Droth worked together. Frantically, Captain Nari trained joint combat teams, teaching Drought soldiers human tactics. Commander Day positioned his fighters to cover Drought evacuation routes. Admiral Hana built a defensive network that used both species' strengths. Vali watched it all and felt something she had not felt in months. Hope, not because she thought they would win, the swarm was too strong, too relentless, but because for the first time since this nightmare began, her people were not alone. Someone had answered their call. Someone cared. Your Majesty, Prill said quietly. The swarm vanguard is approaching. They will be here in 6 hours. Valeria nodded. Inform Admiral Yun and Prill. Thank her. For me, thank all of them. Even if we lose, they gave us something precious. They gave us hope. I do not think humans came here to lose, said, watching the human fleet maneuver with practiced precision. I think they came here to fight. Thanks for watching. And with compernated, and I think the swarm is about to learn why you do not threaten a species that crosses the galaxy to help strangers. Vali looked at the human ships on her screen. They were small. They were new to space, by all logic. They should have stayed home where it was safe, but they had not. They had come, and whatever happened next, Valeria knew one thing with absolute certainty: humanity belonged among the stars, not because of their technology, or their age, or their power, but because when darkness came and everyone else hid, humans stood up and said no. Because when someone needed help, humans did not calculate odds or worry about profit. They simply asked one question: how can we help? And that, Valor realized, was the mark of a truly advanced civilization. Not weapons or science or empire, but the simple courage to care about others, even when caring was dangerous. All ships prepare for battle, Valera ordered, and send a message to the human fleet. Tell them the Droth Empire stands with Earth. Today we fight together, and if we die as friends. Message sent, the communications officer reported. And Your Majesty, the humans are singing. Singing? Valera asked, confused. Yes. It is a battle song, something about refusing to surrender and fighting until the end. It is very loud, and Your Majesty, the officer hesitated, it is actually quite terrifying. I think the swarm is going to be very surprised. Valeria listened to the human voices echo across the communication channels. The song was rough and aggressive. Nothing like Droth music, but it was also filled with defiance and courage, and a strange joy. The humans were not afraid, they were excited. They were ready for war, and the swarm was coming to meet them. The swarm arrived exactly when predicted. One moment space was empty, the next it was filled with organic horror. Hundreds of biohips appeared, each one a living tumor of flesh and kitten and things that should not exist. They pulsed with sickening movement, growing and changing even as Valeria watched. Some were as large as cities, others were small and fast, darting through space like insects. Swarm had come expecting easy prey. Broken survivors, helpless civilians, a final meal before moving to the next system. Instead, they found a wall of human steel and Droth crystal waiting for them. All ships engage, Admiral Hana ordered calmly. Show them what happens when they threaten our friends. The human fleet opened fire. Valeria had seen many space battles in her life, but nothing prepared her for the sheer violence of human warfare. Rail guns fired metal slugs that punched through swarm bioships like paper. Nuclear missiles exploded in brilliant flashes, vaporizing clusters of smaller vessels. Plasma weapons burned at temperatures hot enough to melt armor, and the kinetic kill vehicles, those simple metal rods hit with the force of small meteors. The swarm recoiled for just a moment. Their advance stopped. They had never encountered weapons like these. Energy weapons they could adapt to, biological attacks they could counter. But crude kinetic force and nuclear fire were different. The swarm's usual defenses did not work as well, but the swarm learned quickly. It always did. After the first shock, the bioships began to adapt. They grew thicker armor. They split into smaller targets. They released clouds of spores that absorbed incoming fire. The swarm was changing its tactics in real time, becoming harder to kill with every passing minute. They are adapting. General reported, human weapons are becoming less effective. Then we change tactics. 2. Commander Day said. His fighter squadron dove into the swarm formation, moving with a speed and agility that shocked Valeria's observers. Human pilots flew through spaces that should have been impossible, dodging swarm tentacles and acid sprays with reflexes that seemed superhuman. Lieutenant Borhan led her wing directly into a cluster of bioships. Her fighter was tiny compared to the massive swarm vessels, but she did not hesitate. She fired missiles at point-blank range, destroying 3 ships before pulling away in a turn that should have killed her from the acceleration forces. How are they surviving those maneuvers? One of Valera's tactical officers asked. In amazement, those G forces would kill any Droth pilot. Their bodies are reinforced, Thex explained, reading data from the human medical files. They use genetic modifications and cybernetic implants to handle extreme stress. They have turned themselves into living weapons. The space battle was only part of the fight. The swarm released boarding pods trying to infect human and drought ships with parasites that would take control from the inside. Captain Nari had prepared for this. Her Marines were stationed at every airlock, an access point, carrying weapons that seemed primitive but were brutally effective when swarm parasites broke through the hull of a human destroyer. They found Marines waiting with flamethrowers. The parasites burned, screaming in frequencies that hurt Valeria's hearing, even through the communication system. When swarm spores tried to spread through the air systems, the Marines used chemical weapons that killed anything organic within minutes. They fight without mercy, they observed. The humans do not capture enemies or show compassion, they simply kill everything that threatens them. Can you blame them? Valer asked. The swarm offers no mercy. Why should they? Admiral Hana commanded from the center of the battle, her tactical genius becoming clear as the fight continued. She used the human fleet speed advantage to strike at weak points. She coordinated attacks with Droth heavy weapons. She predicted swarm movements and placed traps. The humans had been in space for only 50 years, but they fought like they had been born to war. Engineer Tay unveiled his secret weapon on the 3rd day of battle, nanoplague bombs, designed specifically to attack swarm biology. When the first bomb detonated inside a swarm bioship, the results were spectacular. The ship began to Decay from the inside, it's organic. Components breaking down faster than it could heal. Within minutes, the massive vessel fell apart into dead chunks of matter. The nanoplague works, Tay reported with satisfaction. The swarm cannot adapt fast enough. Their regeneration is actually working against them, spreading the plague faster. Valeria felt a surge of hope. Maybe they could actually win this. Maybe the humans had found the key to defeating the swarm. But then the swarm did something unexpected. It stopped attacking. The biohips pulled back, regrouped, and then split into two forces. One continued fighting the human fleet. The other turned toward the Droth evacuation ships. They are targeting the civilians, Pill shouted. They know we will have to divide our forces to protect them. Classic tactic, Admiral Hana said grimly. Force us to make a choice, protect the weak or destroy the enemy. We cannot let them reach the evacuation ships, Valeria said desperately. 4 billion souls are on those transports. If the swarm reaches them, we know. Commander Day said. All human ships knew orders, protect the civilians at any cost. I repeat, at any cost. What happened next would be remembered in both human and droll history for centuries. The human fleet did not retreat. They did not try to find a clever tactical solution. They simply threw themselves between the swarm and the civilian ships with a ferocity that bordered on madness. Ship after ship accelerated toward the swarm, firing everything they had until their weapons ran dry. When their weapons were gone, they used their ships as weapons. Volley watched in horror and awe as human destroyers rammed swarm bioships at full speed, their crews singing battle songs until the moment of impact silenced them forever. The UES Thunderbolt, a heavy cruiser with 300 crew members, was surrounded by swarm vessels. Its engines were damaged, its weapons were overheating. Captain Seong Jin could have retreated. Instead, he ordered his crew to evacuate and escape pods and then set his ship on a collision course with a swarm bio dreadnought. The impact destroyed both vessels in a flash of nuclear fire. They are sacrificing themselves, Dex said, his voice filled with disbelief. They are dying to buy us time, though that is what humans do, Valeria said quietly, tears streaming down her face. They protect others, even when protection means death. The battle raged for 6 days. 6 days of constant fighting, with neither side willing to surrender. The human fleet was being torn apart. 19 ships were destroyed. Thousands of crew members were dead, but they held the line. The swarm could not reach the civilian transports. On the 7th day, something changed. The swarm stopped attacking. Its biohips began to withdraw, pulling back from the battle zone. For a moment, Vali thought it was a trick, but the swarm kept retreating, leaving the system entirely. Status report, Admiral Hana demanded. The swarm is leaving, Day reported, exhaustion clear in his voice. All enemy vessels are jumping to slip space. They are running away. Third day, third day. Third day, third day. Silence filled the command channels. Vali could not believe what she was hearing. The swarm never retreated. It never gave up. It consumed everything or died trying. But the humans had done the impossible. They had made the swarm decide that this meal cost too much. Casualty report, Hana said quietly. 19 ships lost, 12,347 Crew members dead, another 8,000 wounded, but Admiral Day's voice broke. Slightly, we saved them all. 4 billion civilians made it to the safe zone. We saved them all. Valeria looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was devastated. More than 40% of their ships were destroyed. The survivors were damaged, running on emergency power. But the drought civilian transports were safe, jumping away to temporary sanctuary in neutral space. Admiral Yun, Valeria said, her voice thick with emotion. I do not know how to thank you. Your people sacrificed so much for us. Why? Why did you do this? Admiral Hana appeared on the screen. She looked tired, older than she had just a week ago, but her eyes were still sharp, still determined, because someone had to. Your Majesty, Hana said simply. Because we could, because that is what humans do. We see people in trouble and we help. It is not complicated. It is just who we are. Valor understood then. The humans had not come for profit or glory or strategic advantage. They had come because it was right. Because in a galaxy full of old advanced civilizations that had forgotten basic compassion, humanity still remembered what mattered. The Droth Empire owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid, Valeria said formally. From this day forward, Earth and its people will forever be friends of my species. We will share our technology, our resources, our very lives if necessary. You saved us, Admiral. You saved us all. We will remember your soldiers. General Thex added, saluting in the human style. Their sacrifice will be honored by every Droth for all time. Admiral Hana smiled, sadly. Just make sure it means something. Rebuild your empire, protect your people, live good lives. That is the only thanks we need. News of the Battle of Droth Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within weeks, every major civilization knew the story. The primitive humans had done what ancient empires said was impossible. They had stopped the swarm. They had saved an entire species from extinction. They had sacrificed their own people to protect strangers they had never met. The reactions were immediate and predictable. The Kelvin Confederacy, which had refused to send even a single ship to help Queen Valeria, suddenly sent ambassadors to Earth. They arrived with gifts and offers of friendship, pretending they had always respected humanity. The Fatani Collective offered trade agreements and technology exchanges. The merchant guilds of Saffron begged for defense contracts, wanting to buy human weapons and military expertise. Every species that had ignored Earth's existence now wanted to be humanity's friend. They saw opportunity, they saw profit, they saw chance to use humanity's courage for their own benefit. Admiral Hana rejected them all. The Kelvin ambassador arrived at Luna Command expecting a warm welcome. Instead, he found Admiral Hana waiting with a cold stare and colder words. Where were you when Queen Vali was dying? Hana asked quietly. She sent you messages begging for help. You had the ships, you had the weapons, you could have saved billions of lives, but you did nothing. You hid and hoped problem would go away. Admiral, you must understand, the ambassador began. We had to think of our own people first. Risk was too great. The risk was too great, Hana repeated flatly. But somehow Earth, with a fraction of your resources and a tenth of your experience, found the courage to act. Tell me, Ambassador, what does that say about your civilization? We are offering friendship. Now the ambassador said, trying to sound reasonable. We can help rebuild the human fleet. We can share technology. We can be valuable. Allies, we do not need fair weather. Allies, Hana said, we do not need friends who only appear when it is convenient. Earth will choose its own allies, thank you, and we choose species who share our values. Species who believe in protecting the weak, not abandoning them. The ambassador left empty-handed. So did all the others. Earth rejected every offer from species that had refused to help the Droth. The message was clear. Humanity did not forget, and humanity did not forgive cowardice. Instead, Admiral Hana traveled to the temporary Droth settlement and met with Queen Valeria in person. The two leaders stood together in a simple room, no fancy ceremony or political theater, just two people who had faced death together and survived. Your Majesty, Hana said, Earth would like to propose a formal alliance, not just trade or military cooperation. Real partnership between our species. We share technology, resources, territory. We defend each other. We build a future. Together, Valeria felt her heart skip. Full alliance, Admiral. The Droth Empire is broken. We have nothing to offer you. Our technology is old. Our military is destroyed. We are refugees with no home. You have everything to offer. Hana said firmly, you have experience. You have knowledge. You have a culture that survived for 3,000 years. You have courage because you kept fighting even when hope was gone, and you have honor because you are willing to admit when you need help. Those things are more valuable than any technology. And what does Earth gain from this alliance? Vali asked. Friends, Hana said simply. Real friends, the kind who stand together when times are hard, the kind who do not abandon each other. My species is young, Your Majesty. We have much to learn. We would be honored to learn from the Droth. They signed the Treaty of New Droth that same day. Permanent alliance between humanity and the Droth Empire. The document was simple, written in both languages. It promised mutual defense, shared resources, open borders, and cultural exchange. But the most important part was just 3 words, repeated in both human and Droth script. We stand together. Commander Day became the first human liaison to the Droth military. He worked with General Thex to rebuild their shattered fleets, combining human and Droth technology in new ways. Human engineers studied Droth energy weapons. Droth scientists examined human kinetic systems. Together, they created hybrid ships that were faster and more powerful than either species could build alone. Captain Nari established joint training programs. Human Marines taught doctor soldiers clothes, combat tactics, how to fight when technology failed, how to survive impossible situations. The DO taught human strategic patience, long-term planning, and the art of defensive warfare. The two species learned from each other, becoming stronger together than they ever were apart. Engineer Tay led research teams focused on anti-worm weapons. The nano-P plague had worked once, but the swarm would adapt. They needed new weapons, new tactics, new ways to fight. Tay worked 18-hour days, often sleeping in his laboratory. He was preparing for the day the swarm would return, because it would return. The swarm always did. The real chain happened on the colony worlds. Droth refugees needed homes. Earth offered Unused planets in human territory, Droth, and human settlers worked side by side, building new cities that blended both cultures, crystal architecture combined. With human steel, Droth gardens grew. Alongside human farms, children of both species played together, learned. Together became friends without the prejudices their elders carried. Queen Valiera visited Earth 2 years after the battle. She stood in the United Nations General Assembly and addressed humanity directly. Her speech was broadcast across human space, translated into every language, people of Earth. She began, I came here to tell you a story, the story of how my empire fell, how we begged for help and were abandoned by civilizations that claimed to be advanced, how we prepared to die, too alone and forgotten, and then you came, you who were called primitive, you who were dismissed as children, you crossed hostile space, risked everything you had and saved 4 billion souls. Not for profit, not for territory, not for glory, you did it because it was right. Valiera paused, emotion clear in her glowing eyes. The galaxy measures advancement in technology and age. They think old civilizations are wise and young ones are ignorant, but I have learned something from my peoples. Tragedy. True advancement is not measured in weapons or science, it is measured in compassion, in courage, in the willingness to help others even when helping is dangerous. By that measure, humanity is the most advanced species in the galaxy, and it is my honor to call you friends. The speech resonated across human space and beyond. Other species heard it, some agreed, others dismissed it as sentiment, but the words spread and people began to question. What did advancement really mean? Was it enough to be old and powerful if you were also cowardly? 3 years after the Battle of Drath Prime, the swarm returned. It came in greater numbers, pressing into the galactic core. Multiple systems were under attack. Old civilizations panicked. Their strategy of hiding and hoping had failed. The swarm was not going away. The Kelvin Confederacy sent another message to Earth, this time begging for help. Their border worlds were being consumed. Their fleet was in retreat. They offered everything they had previously refused to give: technology, resources, territory, anything Earth wanted. Admiral Hanna, now promoted to Grand Admiral of the Allied Forces, considered the request. Then she made a counter-offer. Join the alliance, she said, not as partners, as members. You follow our command structure. You share your resources. You commit to defending others, not just yourselves. If you agree to that, we will help you. If you want to maintain your independence and only help when convenient, you can face the swarm alone. The Kelvin Confederacy agreed. They had no choice. Within months, the Fatani Collective joined, then the Merchant Guild, then smaller species, who saw which way the wind was blowing. The alliance grew from 2 species to 20, all united under one principle: we stand together. The second war against the swarm was different from the first. This time, humanity was not fighting alone. Kelvin ships with human commanders, Fatani scientists working with Drolth engineers, Merchant Guild resources supporting human marines. The alliance combined the strengths of every member species with humanity, providing the tactical leadership and strategic vision. The war was long and brutal. Entire systems were lost. Millions died, but the alliance held and Slowly, system by system, they pushed the swarm back, not defeated, never fully defeated, but contained, controlled, reduced to manageable levels. 5 years after the Battle of Droth Prime, Commander Day stood on the bridge of the UES horizon alongside General Theeks. They were patrolling the border zone, watching for swarm activity. It was routine work now, almost boring compared to the desperate battles of earlier years. I have been thinking, the said quietly, about what your admiral said about how advancement is measured. What about it? De asked. She was right. Th said, my people ruled for 3,000 years, but we forgot the most important lesson, that strength without compassion is worthless, that knowledge without courage is meaningless. We became old and comfortable and afraid. We stopped caring about others. We stopped being worthy of the power we had, and now we remember. That said, because humans taught us, you showed us what we had forgotten, that the purpose of strength is to protect the weak, that the purpose of knowledge is to help others, that advancement means becoming better people, not just building better weapons. Day smiled. We learned from you too. Your strategic thinking saved us in a dozen battles. Your science advanced our technology by decades. This alliance works because we all bring something valuable, because we respect each other. True. Thex agreed, but humanity brought something unique, something the galaxy had forgotten: hope, the belief that things can be better, that we can be better. That is worth more than any technology. On the surface of New Drath, the capital world of the restored Droth Empire, Queen Vali walked through garden that blended both species aesthetics. Crystal trees grew alongside earth flowers. Droth children and human children played together, inventing games that mixed both cultures. Above, ships from 20 different species patrolled the skies, flying in formation. Vali thought about the desperate message she had sent 5 years ago, the plea for help that she thought would go unanswered, the despair she had felt when every great civilization turned away, and then the miracle of humanity's arrival, the courage of Admiral Hana, the sacrifice of 12,000 human souls who died to save strangers. The galaxy had changed, not because of technology or weapons or military might. It had changed because one young species had remembered something old civilizations had forgotten, that compassion matters, that courage matters, that helping others even at great cost is what separates civilization from barbarism. Humanity had answered when no one else would, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what it meant to be truly advanced, not in age or technology, but in the things that actually mattered: honor, courage, compassion, sacrifice, the things that made people worth saving, the things that made civilizations worth preserving, the things that made the future worth fighting for. Vali smiled and watched the children play. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The swarm was still out there waiting. Other threats would emerge, but the galaxy was different now, better because humanity had taught an old lesson in a new way, that when darkness comes, you do not hide, you stand up, you fight back, and you protect those who cannot protect themselves. That was the human way, and now it was becoming the galaxy's way.